Hey y'all! So today I'm going to be doing my second Top of My TBR video. For those of you who don't know, Top of My TBR is a series that I created on my channel back in February where I talk about the books that I am most excited to get to, the books on the top of my TBR. Like I've said in the past, this isn't necessarily the books that I will be reading next, but the ones that I think about the most and the ones that I am currently most excited to get to. And because I tend to get really excited about certain books for long periods of time, I'm only making these once every 3 or so months just to keep as little overlap as possible. And yet there's still some overlap on this video from the one that I made in February. And this Top of My TBR is going to span for the months of the summer, so any books that come out during the summer are fair game, but any books that come out after that are not. Like last time, I'm going to start with the books that I already own and then transition into the ones that I do not yet own. So first up, and all in one fell swoop, are all of the Brandon Sanderson books that I own. And those are The Arithmetist, the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive series, which are The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. All 3 books in the Mistborn trilogy, Book 1, The Final Empire, Book 2, The Wall of Ascension, and Book 3, Hero of Ages. Warbreaker, Elantris, and a bind-up of 2 of his novellas, The Emperor's Soul and Legion. This summer I'm doing a challenge that I created called Summer of Sanderson. I will leave the announcement video down in the description. Basically, I'm going to be reading all of the books that I just showed you this summer, and I am just so excited to finally get to them because Brandon Sanderson is an author that I've been wanting to get to for the longest time, and it's finally going to happen this summer. And while eventually I do want to get to any of the other books that he's published, the ones that I have right now are my top priority. Next on the list is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which was also on my last Top of My TBR video. Basically, if I had been a better and more consistent reader over the past few months, I would have already gotten to this book. But I've just been reading so slowly, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's so intriguing, and I cannot wait to see what happens because it is a fantasy dystopian, and it's in a series, and they've already released the cover for the second book. And I just really want to get to this one, and yeah, I'm super intrigued by it. Next up is the Chaos Walking trilogy by Patrick Ness. I actually started the first book very briefly on my trip back to school after Thanksgiving, and I got almost halfway through it, and I was really enjoying it, but finals hit, and I just didn't get to finish it. And ever since, I have really wanted to get back into this trilogy because I really think I'm going to enjoy it, and everyone who has read it has absolutely loved it. And while reading this kind of pains me a little bit as a grammar Nazi, it's really enjoyable, and I do really want to get to this trilogy sometime in the near future, and it's super intriguing to me right now. Next up is The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. As I said in my unboxing video for this, I really didn't give this much of a second thought when Booksplosion was reading it for their read-along, but then I watched one of Christine's videos, I think it was her book haul, and then the subsequent book talk that she did on this book, and it actually really intrigued me. Because at first I thought that it was just, you know, another high fantasy book, and I mean, I have so many of those on my TBR that it's just overflowing. However, apparently this is also kind of a dystopian with a really corrupt government, and I've been told that the plot is fairly slow in this first book because there's a lot of world building, and I just hear the words fantasy dystopian and world building together, and I get so excited to read this. And I've heard that the main character is really epic and awesome too, so I'm really excited about that. Basically, this book just sounds like it has all of the elements that I really love in books, and I cannot wait to finally read it. Next up is Night Film by Marisha Pessl, which I believe was also in my last Top of My TBR video. It's kind of the same scenario like with Darker Shade of Magic. I have been really intrigued by this book for quite a while now, but I just haven't gotten to it because I haven't gotten through the books before it. And I purposely purchased this book right before I went on my book buying ban because I really want to get to it sometime soon. And so I'm hoping that happens. Another repeat from my first Top of My TBR video is The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. I have really wanted to read this book for a really long time, but I keep putting it off, partially because I get really interested in other things and push it aside, and partially because I'm kind of waiting for the sequel to come out before I read it. And it was supposed to come out this summer, but now I'm seeing things that saying it's coming out in January 2016. So I'm not sure which one is actually the real scenario. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be getting to this one soon, but it is still really intriguing me, and I cannot wait to dive into this one. And the last book on this list that I actually already own is The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. I had to read a chapter of this for class one time, and I was really intrigued by it, and now I'm just getting more and more interested in actually sitting down and reading the whole thing. And while I think that I'm actually going to take it in small chunks so I don't get bored by it since it is a nonfiction, I definitely want to get to this soon, and am really intrigued to see what else it has in store for me. So now I'm going to be moving into the books that I don't yet own, starting with the new releases. First, and the new release that I am most excited about, and possibly the book that I'm most excited about just in this list in general, is Armada by Ernest Cline. It's almost here, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I've been so intrigued by this book ever since I discovered that it was coming out, and I cannot wait to read it. Like, I will probably read it the second that it is released. Or at least, you know, the day that it's released, because I'm gonna have a physical copy and it probably won't come in the mail until the actual day it comes out. But anyway, first second I can get to read it, I'm going to start it. Next is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray, which comes in as a close second to Armada in most anticipated new releases. I loved The Diviners when I read it back in October, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the sequel. I'm so excited about it, and it's gotten pushed back to August rather than July after getting pushed back from April to July, so I'm just really hoping that it actually comes out in August and doesn't get pushed back again, because that's gonna make me really sad if that happens. Next on the list is the sequel to a book I've already mentioned on this list, and that is The Invasion of the Tierling, which is the sequel to The Queen of the Tierling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it comes out sometime mid-June, and I'm hoping to finish Queen of the Tierling before that so that I can just go from one to the next. The next book is another sequel to a book I've already mentioned on the list, and that is Stiletto, which is the sequel to The Rook. As of right now, I don't know if it's actually being released in July or if it is being released in January, but I decided to go ahead and mention it just in case it is released in July. Next is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. I already know that Patrick Ness is a great writer, and this is just a really interesting concept that is really out of the ordinary for YA, and it's really intriguing, and I can't wait to read it. I've seen some people already with advanced reader copies of it, and I'm super jealous because I just want to read it. And plus that cover is really cool. I like the cover. So moving on from the new releases, the next book on my list is 1,000 Pieces of You, which again is a repeat from my first Top of My TBR video. Now this is one that I definitely won't be getting to by the end of the summer because I'm on a book buying ban and I don't own it yet. However, it is still super intriguing to me, and I did want to mention the fact that I am still really excited to get to it once my ban is over and I can buy it. Next is The Winter's Curse by Marie Rukowski. Basically, I actually didn't think too much of this book when it started to get a lot of hype on BookTube. I just saw, you know, a cover with a girl in a dress, and I was like, oh, one of those books. However, it actually seems really interesting. The thing that stands out to me is that there's a corrupt government, and I absolutely love that in books. I mean, that makes it almost a dystopian. I mean, I feel like corrupt government and dystopians are kind of the same thing most of the time. So yeah, I didn't think too much of it at first, but now it's really intriguing me. Next on my list is The Fade Out Volume 1 by Ed Brubaker. After finishing the Lock and Key graphic novel series, I decided that I wanted to try out a few more graphic novels, and this one actually really caught my attention. I can't remember which YouTuber was talking about it recently, but I saw it in a video and they were reviewing it, and they didn't give it a super high rating. I think they gave it like 3 out of 5 or 3.5 out of 5, but they did say that if you were interested in it, that you might still like it. I don't remember what the problems were that they had with it, but it really intrigues me. First of all, the cover is gorgeous, which leads me to believe that the inside artwork is also going to be really pretty, and it's like a film noir crime story, and that just sounds really intriguing to me. because if there's one thing I love outside of a fantasy or a dystopian novel, it's a good murder mystery. I mean, seriously, look at that cover art right there and tell me that it's not one of the most gorgeous covers you've ever seen. Because honestly, that trumps 99% of the covers that I have on my shelves / have said in the past that I love. Like, that cover is one of the, top 10 covers I've ever seen. Like, it's gorgeous. And the last book that's really intriguing to me right now is Death Note. Like I just was talking about, I have been interested into dabbling more into graphic novels, and while this is technically a manga, it just seems really intriguing to me. It's a long series, which is like one of my favorite things. I love long series. And plus, it sounds really dark and gruesome, because I mean, it's about death. So, I don't know, it just sounds really intriguing, and Kaz over at Little Book Owl has been talking about it a lot recently because she and her boyfriend have been reading through the series, and I had heard of it before, but I didn't really know much about it, and the more she talks about it, the more intriguing it is to me. So those are all of the books on my second top of my TBR video. These videos, along with my monthly wrap-up TBR videos, are actually my favorite to film, just because I get to talk a lot about books that I'm really excited about. Because it's always nice to talk about books that you have read and loved, but I feel like I get so much more excited when I'm talking about books that really intrigue me that I haven't read yet. I don't know why that is, but yeah, these and my monthly wrap-up TBR videos are definitely my favorite to film. Fun fact. So you will be seeing my third top of my TBR video sometime around late August, beginning of September, probably about the same time as the end of my book buying ban, and also whenever I end up posting my TBR shame video. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!